episode of the team, actually Neomasculinity Solutions, and the faces and the people, the real people who are behind this project. And we have a very special guest today. She lives in Louisiana, and Chloe's awesome. She's with Interview Valet. She'll tell you a little bit about that, but she's been really on top of things, and she takes care of all of our podcast scheduling to make sure that it happens seamlessly, or seamless as it can be. And then, but I think you're going to like Chloe. We like Chloe. We've been working with her for almost a year. And I just want to welcome the listeners, but also welcome you, Chloe. And thank you for your time uh, to be on this short interview. But we want to let people see who's behind this project. So Chloe Williamson, and you are in where in
I'm in
Louisiana?
Lafayette, Louisiana. So, not quite New Orleans. I know that's what everyone thinks all of Louisiana is. I'm about 2 hours away from there, but still a good part of the state. I love it here.
Well, Louisiana, like you say, is a state, and you're probably right. Everybody thinks New Orleans is like that's all, but do you like crawdads?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite foods. Also, I'm not to disparage New Orleans. I was born and raised in New Orleans, but there is more to it than just that. But if you have never been to Louisiana, I do think New Orleans is your best spot to go, especially for those crawfish and anything else like that.
Have you ever been over to Avery Island where they
Oh,
make the
yeah.
Tabasco?
Oh, yeah. We went a lot when I was a kid. I've been to the Tabasco factory. I've licked the giant salt licks, which I don't know if that's still a feature they let you do with, the wake of COVID. But when I was a kid, that was a big deal we got to do.
Oh, that's hilarious. I never knew about that. So let's get started. What we want to do is, your company, Interview Valet, was recommended to us by another person, professional, and it's worked out great. Tell us a little bit about you, and
Mhm.
then tell us a little bit. We've just learned a little bit, and then tell us a little bit about um, Interview Valet. And then
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
talk a little bit about neomasculinity solutions, and then your plans for the future, something like that. We're
Of course.
informal here, but we did want to put a face on that position. So
Yeah.
who are you?
I'm Chloe, just like you said, I'm from New Orleans. I have always been a people's person. I constantly got the feedback on my report cards that I was a pleasure to have in class, but I talked too much. And I think that kind of tells you everything about me. I am very extroverted. People who say they hate small talk and they hate dealing with strangers in public, they would hate me. I love small talk. I love human connection and that kind of authentic chemistry that happens between people. And that led me to, I was very interested in journalism in college. That isn't what I got my degree in, but I was on the newspaper. I was very involved in my student radio station. So again, it was kind of that reaching of ideas and people that has always really interested me. I've always been very good at it. And that sort of led me to Interview Valet. It wasn't a direct line. I actually kind of found Interview Valet accidentally. Post pandemic, I had just moved. Actually, I had just moved out of Louisiana to Texas literally 1 month before COVID hit. So I was very excited for this new feature, this new chapter in my life, only to immediately be stuck in the house with no prospects or no anything. So it was kind of a scary time. And my husband's cousin, who is a military spouse, she recommended this special job board for me that is for military spouses because they're typically remote jobs. And it was very divine timing because I really needed a job and I wasn't able to leave my house. And that's how I found Interview Valet. It was actually the very first job I applied to from that job board. I heard back pretty immediately. Obviously, I did well in the interviews. They hired me. And I've really found my footing here. I love it. My mother was always a marketer, so I always kind of had an idea of what professional marketing looks like, or at least one sector of it. So I felt like it came to me pretty naturally. And obviously, I've learned a lot. But one thing remains true. I love that I get to work with a lot of people and a lot of different people, even people I wouldn't necessarily want to spend time with in my personal life. It doesn't matter if we're all aiming for the same goal of amplifying their voices and finding them that same connection that they're looking for. That's what it's all about, right? So I love what I do. It's brought me to amazing people just like you, and I get to help people achieve their goals, reach their dreams, even. That sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. A lot of people, this is a marketing channel for them, but a big goal of theirs is to have their voice amplified like that. And being able to help them do that is really meaningful to me.
Well, that's pretty cool. And thank you for that. But you are a military spouse yourself, U.S. Army, right?
Yes, he actually left last year, so I'm technically not a military spouse anymore, but I was for 5 years, so I lived that life in and out for sure.
And where was he stationed at?
He was stationed at Fort Hood before we got married. That was why I moved to Texas, actually.
Right.
And he was on the tail end of a thing. He and I had dated in college. We had a really long history. And then we moved to we PCS to Fort Campbell in 2020, very late 2020, like October 2020. So we spent 4 years in Clarksville, Tennessee. And once he got out of the army, we didn't really have a reason to be there anymore. So we came back to Louisiana because that's where our families lived. And I'm very happy to be back. I've missed it a lot.
Well, and you're still together. A lot of times military couples, it's difficult because you're moving around a lot but you know what? That's great. That's a great story, really. And it led you to Interview Valet. What's a couple things about Interview Valet? Your owner is a Naval Academy graduate.
Mhm.
And what's the mantra? What is it that makes your company so successful in helping podcast show interviewers find podcast show interviewees?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
One of our virtues here is that in the digital age of automation, it's the personal touch that makes all of the difference. So Interview Valet is completely remote. We have team members all over the country. We don't have a central office, so we rely a lot on, digital communication to get a lot of our work done. But we're still humans at the end of the day. We have a lot of meetings where we see each other face to face. And, I don't have to tell you, especially with the onslaught of I get a million spam emails every single day, sometimes from hosts of shows that don't exist. They're looking for guests or booking agencies that you can tell this is an AI generated pitch. We don't even like to call it pitches at Interview Valet. We like to call it introductions because, again, it's that personal touch. And we even get feedback from hosts that we work with that they're starting to see so many of these kind of mediocre approaches to try and do business with them. And a part of why they love that we stand out is because they can tell it's a real human being on the other side of the computer trying to forge these connections. And we do a lot of research, a lot of vetting. Some team members have the close relationship with the podcast hosts that we work with. I'm on the side of the team where we work closely with our clients, and it's not a lot of blind guessing. We have a lot of, like I said, we vet a lot of these things. We do a lot of research. Anytime I think a show could be a good fit for a client of mine, I have a conversation with the person on the team who works with that host, and we have an open conversation about it. Sometimes they come back and they say, no, I don't think my host is going to like your person. And then we discuss that. We see where we're going because it's cliche, but everyone knows something that you don't. And you could know your client or your host like the back of your hand. That doesn't mean you know exactly the approach the other one is coming from and how that can work out. So there's a lot of teamwork. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of, I don't want to say trial and error. I guess that's with anything. We obviously have proven systems that work, but we embrace new technologies, but we never ever want to turn anything that we do over to just that. And I think that is really the important thing because everything feels so fake sometimes. And it's that authenticity that I really like to, let's say, that we hold on to as well. And I know that's very important to you too.
Well, that's great, because you and I have talked about that. And I think the
Hmm.
greatest challenge for not only people that offer digital products and services is to not treat their clients like a number. And I hear it so very often from my side, the client side, that they feel like they're just another project.
Yeah.
They're just another number, and that human touch. And you and I spoke about this recently where we said that it's the human touch or the companies that can incorporate that into their corporate mantra that are going to separate themselves.
Hmm.
And one thing we forget, we need to remember, and your company does, and this is why I like working with Interview Valet so much, is that, humans by nature, we're social animals.
Yeah.
Okay. We need that authenticity that you just spoke about. to build trust in a relationship, right? We're not mathematical computations. We're not algorithms and rules set forth by some computer. And that's what I think people are starting to feel. And I personally, I don't know, I think you probably do too, is that there's a shift taking place.
Yeah.
People are seeking companies with more authenticity and more of the human touch.
Hmm.
Um, I see it only improving as time moves forward. People seem very frustrated, and people don't want it. Customers don't want to feel like a number.
Yeah, they don't. And I mean, AI is not new. Anytime you've used a chat bot in the past like 10 to 15 years, it's been AI. It's more that it's just becoming so accessible, and it's almost scary because like I said, like I'll get these spam emails all the time, and they'll know things about our business or something that I've said in an interview from like years ago, and it's like they were able to pull that data, and it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean you know who I am. And it's odd to see it being used to try to kind of appeal to you or get one over on you almost. That's what it feels like, because it's not necessarily that anyone's trying to get one over on you, but when you can tell that it's just this weird cyber thing, it feels that way. Like it almost like it's like I'm not talking to a real person. I don't even know how to approach this and evaluate it almost.
Which is a great lead in to why we're doing Neomasculinity Solutions, because
Hmm.
our project is to reignite intuition. And you just said it yourself, Chloe, that when you get something like that, your intuition is telling you, hold it down. This is not a real human being. And
Hmm.
and it just doesn't feel right when you're talking to a computer. Kind of like when you get put on hold on a cell phone and it's a computer.
Yeah.
So we're working on neomasculinity solutions, and that's what we've been getting interviews for, about leadership and protecting our families and the people who we love from that onslaught of that digital unreliable information, which
Yeah.
most of it is. So, what do I know you know our company. What is it about this particular project that excites you, and we honestly feel like Interview Valet is part
Hmm.
of our company
Of
because it's
course.
it's a mouthpiece for right now on the podcast edge. And so what is it about our project that Tom likes, the owner of the company, and the people at your company like about us? Is there anything, or do they not like us? I don't know.
Oh no, they love you, of course, John. I
I was
really
fishing for that, right? No.
Oh, of course. And
Yeah.
I'm willing to cast a line for you.
Oh, there you go.
I
Thank
really appreciate any focus on being able to suss out misinformation. I know that's kind of your whole thing. It's scary. It is scary how much anyone can just say anything. And I feel like when I was growing up and I'm a millennial, so I was the first generation to grow up with computers. So when I was even young in school, I'd say as early as like fourth grade, we started taking computer classes. And it was very, very much drilled into us that pretty much anything you see on the internet, you have to just assume it's not real. Like almost to the level of fear mongering. But I think when you're with a classroom full of 9-year-olds, you're allowed to fear monger a little bit when it comes to
Of course,
unfettered
yeah.
internet access. Yeah.
I get
But
it.
yeah, but I was raised in that camp where the internet is ultimately kind of an unknown, kind of a scary place, and there potentially are people out there that could as much as even want to hurt you. Like I said, like it might be feel weird to call it an attack or like something is trying to get one over on you, but like those threats are out there, and it's very hard to differentiate on a computer screen, especially with something like AI, where something could look as real as if you're seeing it with your own eyes. But if you don't know how to look for what is real and what's not real, I mean, you're at the mercy of the person giving that information to you. And not everybody has good intentions with the information they're trying to give you. I also like your focus on intuition, because I think, especially in modern times, we sometimes confuse intuition with anxiety, or we confuse anxiety as intuition.
Right. Yep.
And i and i think that's where you kind of have to work with the kind of logic that you teach to know what the difference is, because sometimes something looks wrong to me, and I can kind of just drop into my body for a second, and I can tell, okay, I kind of feel bad in the pit of my stomach about that. That's just anxiety. I probably just need to get over that. But when something is wrong for real outside of your own, like mental processing, that's when your intuition is coming in. And you do have to know how to trust the signals your body is giving you. And if you can't trust the signals your body is giving you, if everything is anxiety to you and you can't even parse with that, that's fine. But that's why you do have to kind of untangle it and use those kind of logic, those kinds of things that you're teaching so that you can make an informed decision. Because if nothing looks real, nothing is real. And how do you trust that something is real and something is good for you if you don't have the proper tools and the framework to make that decision in real time?
Yeah, and that's a great way of looking at it, and it's nice to hear your perspective as a younger person than me, and because it reinforces the notion that the younger generation is not totally lost. They're onto it. You probably know more
Hmm.
about intuition than we do,
Hmm.
because we're not used to all of these tools. A couple of questions. What are three things if somebody's looking around, and we talked a little bit about authenticity, but are there like three things that people need to look for that may be looking for a podcast agency, or what do you think? We know authenticity, but what are three things people need to look for?
Look for testimonials. Testimonials can be faked just like anything else, but if you see a testimonial and they have a full name on there, look up that name. Sometimes that's not a real person. Sometimes they made a testimonial up, or it's like an internal person that gave it, and it's not a worthy testimony. So look for something like that. There are plenty of databases out there, like Glassdoor is an example, and Trustpilot. You can also kind of trust the masses in a sense, see what other people are saying. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. One person's bad experience is not necessarily going to be a bad experience for everyone. You also have to be kind of good at determining what is based in fact and what is based in opinion. And a lot of times, people's language will kind of tell you, like, if someone is explaining a really bad experience, if you read a few sentences of it, you can sometimes tell, like, I think maybe you were kind of the problem in that situation. You can tend to read those things. So testimonial, I guess that both of those answers are both testimonial, but look at what other people are saying and then consider results. If you know someone that agency works with, like a client, if you can get that kind of information, do some reverse engineering. Who is that person? What interviews have they been doing? Do they seem like they're getting proper training, especially if it's someone that's new to podcasting? Like, are they going on a podcast and they're just not doing a good job? They are talking in circles. They're not really giving actionable advice. They are kind of just talking for the sake of it. That person maybe doesn't have good training, and maybe that agency isn't someone you want to work with. I would really, maybe an unpopular answer, you have to do your research. That's not something intuition alone is going to tell you. You do have to
Right,
kind
right.
of do some groundwork to make that decision for yourself. But the answers are out there. You have to just go looking for them.
And I like that because you know what? You're being focused, but actually using some critical thinking skills to make a decision. And
Mhm.
it seems like these days we like to call it, we don't like to call it anything really, but it's intellectual laziness. And
Absolutely.
not to be blunt, but to wake up and actually do the research to make sure you find a firm that's actually working in your best interest. And then to work it out in conversation. So what is in a perfect world, or what does a perfect world look like to you when it comes to digital products and services? Because we have to
Uh,
live with them now.
yeah, yeah, it's here to stay. There's no getting past it. And I mean, it's so silly. In a perfect world, people just wouldn't lie. Obviously, we don't live in that world. I don't think we ever will. But in a perfect world, people would have the skills to be able to make the proper informed decisions and be able to differentiate what is fact and what is fiction. And, some some places on the internet have embraced this. I know on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, they have the feature of community notes. So if someone tweets something, someone can come in and add a community note with a proper source saying, no, this isn't true. Actually, it's this. That kind of stuff is very helpful. Anytime you have to look for sources too. Again, I have a little bit of a background in journalism, and I was, again, millennial. I was raised with computers. However, when we would do research papers growing up, that was still the day where it's like, okay, you could have like two internet sources, but then another two have to come from an encyclopedia, another two have to come from a journal. we were taught more about how to research and how to cite sources and how to know that what you're using is peer reviewed and accurate and relevant to what you are looking for, what you're saying. And I, d- I don't have a child. I don't have a child. I don't have a lot of children in my family. So I guess I can't say I don't know if the kids aren't being taught that
Right.
anymore. I don't think they are, though. I think they're given a good bit of education on how to navigate the internet safely because that's kind of everything everywhere all at once for us. But I don't know, you know, tweets are not testimonies, to pull an old cliche out of it. Just because it exists on the internet doesn't mean it is true. That doesn't mean it's not true, but you have to find your sources. You have to know how to do that. You also just, again, you have to work on your own intuition. Once you are good at that kind of logical thinking and applying what you know to make informed decisions in real time, you get a lot better at kind of just knowing it when you see it. It's hard, one of those things, it's hard to describe, but I know it when I see it. I know when someone is BSing me. I know when someone is being inauthentic. And it's a lot of trial and error, to use that again too. That's not something you're necessarily born with, and our world is certainly not set up to make that easy for anyone to do. So it's a personal responsibility. No one ever wants to hear that. You're not just gonna like blink your eyes and have the intuition. It's something you have to actively work towards.
Exactly. You mentioned the internet and all this information. You said the proverbial word information and a lot of it unreliable. How important do you think that it is? And we already know that, but I want to hear it coming from you.
Mhm.
How important is it that parents keep an eye on their children on the internet?
It's not just important. I think it's crucial. A joke I make with my friends a lot is I'm afraid to be a parent because I don't even know what kind of social media is going to be around when I would have kids that I would have to keep up with. Like that's so terrifying. The fact that Snapchat exists, that wasn't a thing when I
Oh,
was a
I
kid, and
know.
thank God, right? Because what kind of trouble would a teenager have gotten in with that? What kind of trouble are teenagers getting in with that now? That's terrifying. And again, when I was a kid, it was new. My internet access was not very heavily monitored by my parents because we didn't necessarily know yet how scary the internet can be. And luckily, nothing ever happened to me. I never got in any danger with that. I was a very terrified, responsible, good kid. Just not, and I'm not saying that to brag on myself. I was very terrified of everything as a child, so that kept me out of danger. But I
But
don't know.
obviously, parenting had something to do with that.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
it did. Both of my parents, they didn't monitor my internet access because they knew they could trust me. But like the internet's not what it is not now what it was then.
back
Even a
then, yeah.
smart kid, even a well-behaved kid, even a responsible kid, they're not necessarily equipped to deal with everything out there. And I think you really have to have an idea of what your kids are doing, especially with YouTube. I mean, the autoplay, anything can pop up on your kid's feed, and now your kid's getting indoctrinated with God knows what, and you don't even know about it. It all happened in one day. And that's terrifying. I very, very much sympathize with parents who have to kind of navigate the technical world with children these days. I can't, I'm sure that's terrifying.
Well, that's one reason why we're on the tip of the spear. And even, your company is contracted with us, we still
Mhm.
believe that you're a part of the team.
Mhm.
And I think what you mentioned, the authenticity and the actual care, the genuine compassion for what it is that we do, definitely makes our relationship with your company rock solid. And we like that. So that's the way business needs to be done. And for all of you digital products and services companies out there that may tune in and listen to this little chat with Chloe and me, think about the things that you can do, the little touches to make your interaction with your client base more human, because that's what we're going for.
Mhm.
We have to leave the planet better than we found it.
I
And
think so too.
so we're thrilled to death for the future. Is there anything that I missed, Chloe, you think?
I don't think so. I think we got it all. I said what I needed to say, which is just good gosh, do your research, look for your sources, and don't believe everything you hear because a lot of it is not safe and not good and not right.
Well, there you have it. Great information from Chloe Williamson, Legacy. I'm sorry, Interview Valet. I'm thinking of a legacy, right? So,
Mhm.
what's your website? How can people contact Interview Valet? How do they get you?
Interviewvalet.com, VALET, just like a valet. We have so many free resources and information on that website. Even if podcast interview marketing is not the move for you and not what you're trying to do, don't worry about that. This is not a sales call or a sales pitch by any means. Go check us out. We have a lot of information for how to vet podcasts, how to strategize a marketing plan of your own, how to repurpose your interviews. Any questions you might have about the entire industry of podcast interview marketing, a lot of your answers could be found with the free resources on our website. So please check it out. And if you are interested in podcast interview marketing, we have free sales calls available for anyone who'd be interested with our founder. They're all with the founder. That's another big personal touch of ours.
Hands on, yeah.
You're not just going to get a VA that doesn't know anything about the process. You're going to talk to the man in charge, and he will discuss strategy with you, what your goals are, and let you know what the next best move for you is.
And there's actually if you sign up with Interview Valet, there's a book that you get. And I got to tell you, the book
Mm-hmm.
is phenomenal. There's a lot of information in there and things, you'll learn things from the first couple of pages that you probably never knew about podcasting and the importance of it and how you could do it at a high level. So, we thank the audience for coming here. We wanted to put a face on the people that are working with this company and the people in our company. And there you have it, Chloe Williamson. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you and Tom and the whole cast of characters, I guess you will, at
Of
Interview
course.
Valet. Thank you. Merry Christmas. We'll timestamp this, but have a safe and happy and great holiday. And we look forward to next year and to get started up again in January.
Oh, yeah. Big things coming. Thanks for having me, John. It was lovely.
Thank you, Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we're good. That was good. You did a great job. You're so natural, you might talk about fear and anxiety, but I can tell you are fearless.
Thank
And
you. How
that's what makes
nice.
you good at what you do because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be fearless to operate in the world at an authentic level. Because
Mm-hmm.
you can be not fearless and a coward and be a phony, but you come from good parents and I just love what you do and I love the help and thank you for getting us back on track. So I'll let you go. If there's
Yeah.
anything you need from us, I'll be talking to you soon anyway. So we got stuff coming up next month.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And we're gonna look at your one sheet and hit the ground running. I'm very excited.
Yeah, and I'm glad you were able to rework the payment thing and all that. It was kind of a nightmare. And you know what? You
Really?
were actually not because of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nightmare because of people that did things that they're not supposed to do. So it makes
Yeah.
you very, anyhow, it's all good. Appreciate
Yep.
you.
Yep. See you later, John.
At least
Bye.
Navidad. Bye, Chloe.